Greetings. So today was another good day of trading. One of the things that happened early in the day was the bounce for the dollar against the trend. So this bounce for the dollar against the trend came back twice. And so with this, what ended up happening for the idea was as it was able to gather and hold its 100 pair moving average, that's when the break to the upside was able to happen today. After getting its break to the upside, it was able to hold on to 104 for an extended period of time. So the dollar holding on to 104 for an extended period of time against the trend was very impressive off of the bounce from last week. This has been a very nice. This has been a very nice move that seems to have some consistency to it. Here, looking at the 4-hour chart. And so with that, with this, one of the things that was called out was as far as with the dollar dropping back down to look out for the 100 period moving average in order to see if the 100 period moving average would indeed be able to hold this idea as this idea comes back towards this moving average here. So that's what we're looking for the dollar. If this does not hold, then it has those shorter term moving averages to hold price. But if this does hold, because again, tomorrow we do have more news coming out. So we have the employment numbers. So those ISM numbers, a beat on those ISM numbers calls for the bounce that we saw today. And tomorrow, early AM at 8:15, we have the employment change numbers. And so we also have being reported for the euro, those retail sales numbers. And we have a big day for the Canadian dollar, which is what we talked about UC today, and UC's movement and pretty much their lack of movement because of the fact that we have their interest rate decision coming out tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then we have the trade balance for the Australian dollar coming up tomorrow night. As well as having later on tonight their GDP numbers for the Australian dollar. So big news back-to-back days for the Australian dollar, big news for the US dollar back-to-back days, and big news for the Canadian dollar as well. And so with that, we did see for the UC idea, again, this one stayed inside. So this was an inside candle here that was followed by another one that was forming. And then the call afterwards was that this move, as far as is probably going to be a big move. And the reason why is just because of the fact that it had this nice period of consolidation here and has been inside of these two moving averages for the last, as far as completely and fully for the last 5 candles. So 5 candles here. So inside, as far as being inside of these, the 50 pair moving average and the 20 pair moving average. So again, the Canadian dollar is expected to, as far as for the Canadian dollar, they are expected to continue to keep their interest rates the same at 5%. So we'll see if that does indeed happen, or if there is some surprise that is there. And so we'll see what takes place with this trade idea, as well as what takes place with the CJ idea. So with the CJ idea, again, underneath all of its moving averages, down for the week. So to see if there is some change of trend that is going to take place here, or if the trend continues. We saw earlier and talked about earlier as far as what was taking place for the GJ idea. The GJ idea did break down towards the end of the day. So this idea broke down for the end of the day. Again, because of the dollar strength. Remember, we're talking about this dollar strength. Everything paired against the dollar is going to be declining. So we have the GJ idea here declining. We have the GJ, the GU idea, the EU idea here continuing to decline, even from what was taking place last week. And then we also have the AU idea here declining. And then we have the NU idea here declining as well. So again, as long as we continue to get those bullish reports for the dollar, then we'll continue to get this dollar pushing up, whereas these pairs against the dollar will be pulling back. We see here for the UJ idea, again, holding support, nice support here over this 147 area. So the expectation is for, if that bullish news does come in, for a attempt at because there was one attempt here, but that attempt was rejected, which caused for the pull down that occurred. But at this major quarter level, that 147,500, at 147,500, that is the level that is to be acquired if there is to be any strength to this move that should take place after holding this base here around this 147 area down to that 146.75 area. So holding this area could cause for there to be more bullish action, or it could cause for price to break down through this area once this area is lost. It all depends on it. The contingency is what happens with the dollar when the news comes in, and the news that we are looking for is the employment change. And so we're looking at the ADP employment change numbers for the month of November and seeing how those numbers come in for the dollar, as well as the other reports that we've talked about as well. So I look forward to talking to you guys about these ideas tomorrow, and we'll see you at that time.